we tend to the body. And so going beyond the body, what lies beyond the body? If I'm not this body, then who, what am I? So it's a very deep question. And we've gone 2 weeks already, so we'll pick up here in this section. It's kind of a reading, and there's always welcome any questions or comments as we go through it. God expanded into many, and we constitute those expansions. God is one without a second, but he willed to become many in order to enjoy. So this is so deep that we constitute the expansions of God, that we are divine. We are sacred, and all life is sacred. Anywhere you see life, it's the presence of soul. That means the expansions of God. So that's why in our culture and tradition, we try to really respect life in all its forms. We see that this is not just the covering of a tree or an animal. This is the soul. This is a part of God. It's sacred. But there is a distinction between the supreme whole and the part of the whole. So we are the part. He's the complete whole. But this is so important. So much disrespect goes on in our world today. If people could see that all souls are a part of God, we could not disrespect someone. We would not disrespect God, so we should not disrespect the expansions of God. And we see just right there, we have a spiritual philosophy of peace, world peace. So that's why this is so important. We have experienced that there is little or no enjoyment in sitting alone in a room, talking to oneself. However, if there are 5 people present, our enjoyment is enhanced. And if we can discuss Krishna before many, many people, the enjoyment is all the greater. Enjoyment means variety. God became many for his enjoyment, and thus our position is that of the enjoyed. That is our constitutional position and the purpose for our creation. So this is also a very deep point, that we have a role to play in the universe. And the artificial role is when we try to be the supreme ourself. We try to basically be God. We try to put everything around us, put ourselves in the center of the universe, have everyone rotate, orbit around us, and we call the shots. But guess what? That doesn't actually bring us happiness. Rather, when we act in a way to give service or happiness to God, then we feel happy. So they're changing the mood of being the enjoyer or the enjoyed. Both the enjoyer and the enjoyed have consciousness, but the consciousness of the enjoyed is subordinate to the consciousness of the enjoyer. Although Krishna is the enjoyer and we the enjoyed, the enjoyment can be participated in equally by everyone. Our enjoyment can be perfected when we participate in the enjoyment of God. There is no possibility of our enjoying separately on the bodily platform. Material enjoyment on the gross bodily platform is discouraged throughout the Bhagavad Gītā. This is the Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the language, the Vedas, the oldest recorded spiritual teachings. Matra sparshas tukonteya shitoshna shuka dukada agama payano nityas tam stitikshasva Bharata. O son of Kuntī, the non-permanent appearance of heat and cold, happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. This is one of the most fundamental teachings of the Gītā, that heat, cold, light, dark, and even happiness and distress, it's temporary, and it arises from our body. In the Vedic branch that deals with health, it's called Ayurveda. And in Ayurveda, every food you eat has different properties. And some properties, they can be very good for you. But someone else, those same foods, they can be very harmful for them. So it all depends on our bodily situation. So what we think is very happy, it depends on our body. You know, what's happy for us as human beings, going to the beach, jumping in the water. But for a cat, cats don't like water. So because of their body, that same thing that we think is happy for them is distress. So all of the happiness and distress on the bodily platform, it is flickering. It's temporary. It's not sustaining. It's not real happiness. It's not real lasting happiness. It's always going to change. So what is that real lasting happiness? That's what the nature of the soul is about. The gross material body is a result of the interaction of the modes of material nature, and it is doomed to destruction. So it's a fact that our body, it's very important. We take care of it properly, but it's not going to be with us forever. It has an expiration date. Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirina anashino prameyasya tasmad yudyashva bharata. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. So this is a verse from Bhagavad Gītā. It was actually spoken on a battlefield because we are all in the battlefield of life. Whatever we're doing, we are, we're struggling. We're combating. So I would say that's one of the reasons we can say that Gītā was spoken on the battlefield. One reason, because that exemplifies how we are in a battlefield in our day-to-day life, and we are fighting with not the external enemies, but the internal enemies. The internal enemies are the lower states of consciousness, things we feel we can't control, that's some power over us. If we get really affected by hatred or envy, greed, these things, they exert control over us. So the living entity is eternal, immeasurable, and indestructible. That's what we are. We are eternal. We are immeasurable and we are indestructible. That's the nature of the soul. So that's the good news. And that's very important news, because if we don't have that, then we become very, very fearful in life. We become very afraid of death. We become afraid of ourselves dying or others dying. We don't understand who we are, who others are. So it's only the material body which is subject to destruction. Therefore, we have to go on with our duty in life. Okay. Any comments or questions so far, Megan?
No, not really.
Okay,
Not yet. I'm still taking it all in.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, I know. I hope it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, you're just jumping in here. There was quite a big introduction, so now we're getting into the deeper stuff. Sri Krishna therefore encourages us to transcend the bodily conception of existence and attain to our actual spiritual life. Gunan etan atiyatrin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukhair vimukto mritam ashnute. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, can enjoy nectar even in this life. So these are, as we said, those lower states of consciousness that kind of drag us down. They are categorized in different ways, and this is called the modes of material nature, or the gunas. The guna is a Sanskrit word. It means like the modes or the forces. So in this material world, there's different forces. There's the nature of goodness. And we see the effect of these in one's consciousness. When one is under the effect of goodness, they become peaceful, they become happy, they become compassionate, they become spiritually minded. That is how that a certain energy in this universe is affecting their consciousness. And there's another element, material nature, which can affect us in a different way, and that's passion. And this doesn't mean like a positive passion, like my passion is painting. This means passion in the sense of like really intense over endeavor or activity. That's how it's meant here. So passion in that sense, when we're overly active, overly anxiety, over fearful, this is another conditioning of our mind. Sometimes we go into that state. Our mind is the same, we're the same, but based on these material forces, our consciousness is different. So when we're more under the mode of passion, then we're not peaceful. We're very anxious, or we're very frustrated, or we're really intensely desiring something, like I really want that new car, to the point of blocking our inner peace. So that's another one of these modes. And the last one here is called ignorance. And that's when it's kind of the mode of darkness, when it's the lower mode, and that starts to cover our consciousness. Rather than clearing our consciousness to the nature of our soul, the darkness mode, ignorance, it covers us. And that's why certain activities and habits, they cover us. For example, sleep. In sleep, we're really covered. Sometimes we're dreaming, but we're still in kind of this deep slumber. So when we get very tired, or if we get very mad, madness, we get really mad at someone, it covers all of your better judgment. People do crazy, crazy things in a fit of anger. So anger is of this mode of ignorance. These are the states where our healthy state of consciousness is covered. And that's very dangerous. And certain things like, becoming very intoxicated, it covers us.
Yeah. So I guess I have a question. I'm not sure I'm totally understanding the ignorance one. Like when you say them individually, I kind of get them, but like how they all fall under that same mode, well, when you said madness, or something like angry, I actually would have thought that would have fallen under like the passion one, and then
Yeah,
like the sleep I don't really get. And then like I get what you're saying with like substance use to, I guess it sounds like it got to kind of like numb-ish, and that's why you're like ignorant to something, maybe because you're like using it to not be like awake.
great. That's a
But
very
like
good question.
I'm kind of confused though how, like, I guess how all three of those examples under ignorance. Like I guess I'm not really fully understanding the
Yes.
definition.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a good question. So what we can do is we can go right to the source of this. Now, this is a link I posted in the chat, and it has all of these cool books in
Mhm.
a digital library. So in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a whole chapter that deals with the modes of nature. So we can just jump right in here and see what these symptoms are of these different modes of nature. So the goodness, we'll start here on text 6.
Mhm.
The mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. So that's when our consciousness is becoming more clear. 7, the mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings. It's like you have so much desire that you can't really remember who you are. You can't tap into your soul. And because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. It's just like, if there's some chaos and everyone starts running, and you want to just run, you just want to get out of there. So it just happens that intense desire, it makes us kind of forget our spiritual position. So
Mhm.
that's why this kind of intense, we say fruitive, and that just refers to the fact like you want to get the fruit of something. A
Mhm.
fruitive action means you're really after something. You're after something so much that it covers you.
Mhm.
Then the mode of darkness born of ignorance is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. So going even of more covering than just being like really busy, is when you're actually under delusion. You're actually more forgetful. It's going even a step further, where you can't even really connect uh, in a deeper way with who you are. And so yeah, when there's different kinds of mental disorder, mental disease. People can become crazy, they can become insane, insanity and things, and senile. So these are things that are actually more and more covering us from even that passionate stage. Indolence and sleep. We see this a lot, yeah, like very severe intoxication, when people are just completely covered. Like you said, they're trying to just numb themselves or forget. Oftentimes people do that because they just want to forget. They just want to forget about something or what they're going through. So that's just another level of forgetfulness. I hope that helps a little bit.
It does. And then so the goodness one though is one that is that like one that it's being framed as like if there's is it like good or bad? Like is it like you want
Yeah.
to transcend, you want to like transcend like because you don't want to be too like
Well, that's very good intuition, because all of these modes, they bind us. So the best one of the three is goodness. That's when we're clear, we're alert, we're happy.
oh
But
okay.
the problem with that
Hmm.
is that it can still keep us in our material consciousness. So what we're going to talk about as we go through this is bhakti yoga, which is the yoga of devotion, which is actually transcendental to even the modes. So that's why this verse is saying, when the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes, so even beyond goodness, even beyond clarity and peace. And we see this, there's a lot of meditation schools where the goal is like just to be calm or just to be peaceful. So that is one level, but that's not really tapping into the soul completely, because the soul is
Mhm.
transcendental and it has a whole inner life. It goes beyond just feeling calm or relief of stress. It actually goes into positive spiritual bliss. So, of all the three, we want to cultivate the one of goodness, but that's not the ultimate goal. There's a level even beyond the goodness, which is the purely spiritual level. So, one who can go even beyond the goodness. And that's the question of how do we do that? The idea is that everything usually we do, it's motivated by some kind of desire or selfishness. Just by nature, we want to do something for ourselves. That's kind of how our ego works. So the issue with that is that it generates karma, because what you desire, what you do, it generates a reaction. And this is even on a physical level. We have the law of thermodynamics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So even on the physical scientific realm, we see that one action, there's a reaction. So this is true also for the moral choices and the desires that we have. Whatever we desire for ourselves, it creates some reaction to further identify us with ourself of our conception, which is this body or our ego. So even those desiring something for ourselves, it's not enough. To go beyond that, we have to do the bhakti yoga. And that's what we were talking about in the beginning, of actually not doing for ourselves, but actually trying to do something in service to the Supreme.
Mhm.
When we do that kind of activity, those are transcendental activities, and those do not generate karma. They illumine us even beyond the level of goodness. So that's our process of purification. So it's said here that one who can transcend these three modes, they can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses. Because our soul is kind of like entrapped in this body. And it's a gross body that we can see, and also the subtle body. The mind, like you can't see my mind, but I definitely have a mind. So that's the subtle body. So they come sometimes call it the astral body. The mind, the intelligence, and the ego, those are more subtle aspects of our body. So we, the soul, we're entrapped. We're kind of just covered. We're covered by those. But when we rise to the transcendental level, actually we go beyond them. And because we're no longer bound by that identification, there's no more taking birth again. There's no more dying. There's no more old age, because the product which generates those is transcended. Why do we, this is really far out, I know. But birth, for example, when you see people take birth or people give birth, it's like a celebration of life. But the question is, where was that soul before they were in that body? Did they exist? Did they exist before, or now they just suddenly popped into existence? So if the soul is eternal, where was it before? So our understanding, we accept reincarnation, that you're taking birth because you have some desire. And then this birth gives us the opportunity to fulfill our desire. And that's why there's so many different kinds of birth and different kinds of people, different countries, different life circumstances, because we all have different desires. And then you get the body according to your desire and your karma. So it's no coincidence, actually, the bodies that we have now, we've been awarded them by our karma and by our desire. So then by our desire, we wanted to enjoy in a particular way, so we get a suitable body to do that. So that's why we're taking birth, because we have some desires. And then once we get completely self-satisfied, we become spiritually satisfied, and we don't have to take material birth anymore. We actually go to a higher realm, a spiritual realm. And that's the realm of the soul. So we believe there's 14 different planetary systems. There's higher realms like angels. Then there's the middle realms like the human beings. And then there's even lower realms. So that's all in this universe. And that's all based on our body. But the soul has a reality even beyond that. And that's what we call the spiritual world, or the realm of spirit. And that is our real true identity. So one who can transcend these modes, it says they can enjoy nectar even in this life. So nectar, this is amrita, amritam. It means, yeah, like nectar. And that is a spiritual ecstasy. The soul by nature is ecstatic. We're meant to be always really ecstatic and blissful and feeling transcendental ecstasy. So when we become self-realized, then even here in this material realm, we can experience that transcendental spiritual joy. Now we got one more paragraph. Why don't we try to make it through this one?
Okay.
To establish ourselves on the pure brahma-bhūta spiritual platform above the three modes, we must take up the method of Krishna consciousness. And Krishna consciousness doesn't only mean like this path. Krishna consciousness means this God consciousness or spiritual, genuine spiritual life. It can be any tradition. We don't say ours is the only way, but this is the language how we understand it. The gift of Caitanya Mahāprabhu, the chanting of the names of Krishna, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare, facilitates this process. This method is called bhakti-yoga or mantra yoga, and it is employed by the highest transcendentalists. How the transcendentalists realize their identity beyond birth and death, beyond the material body, and transfer themselves from the material universe to the spiritual universes are the subjects of the following chapters. So this chanting that we do, as you've seen in the temple, this is our method. How does it help us? Well, sound, vibration is very powerful. The sounds that we hear, the sounds we associate with, they affect our consciousness. The more we associate with material sounds or, sounds produced in those lower modes of nature, our consciousness goes down. Have you ever noticed that? You hear some really kind of like angry music and you start feeling, if you start hearing some very peaceful or classical music, for example, or harp or something, flute, you start similarly. So this mantra, this chanting, this is on the spiritual platform. So this mantra is not an ordinary sound. These are divine sounds. Therefore, the more we chant them, the more our consciousness becomes divine. And we actually go beyond the modes of material nature. So that's why we do this mantra yoga. And we chant this either personally or sometimes we do it together in the kirtan, congregationally. So this facilitates this process of transcending this material energy and tapping into our true self. How the transcendentalists realize their identity beyond birth and death. So that's what we need. We want to be free. We really want freedom, but this body just doesn't facilitate that. We have to get sick, or we get broken bones, or we get terrible things happen to this body. So we're very limited in this body. But that's pure state beyond this identification with the material body, that has to do with our existence on a higher level, a higher platform. So any other comments or questions from this little reading tonight? How did it go for you? It was this kind of new stuff. Are you familiar with some of these ideas, or are they pretty far out?
No, I'm definitely familiar with some of the like very general ideas that aren't as specific to like uh to Krishna, but not like that specifically. Like definitely not the modes. Just kind of general like of their, of being souls outside of our material body. And like the idea of like transcending and like that I'm familiar with. I wasn't as familiar. I sort of knew, I think, from maybe either like either from something I got when I was there. I did kind of know that like the chanting, like the idea of the sound and the vibrations, that it wasn't just like I know with some religions they sing and whatnot and it's like in a different way. It's more just like to whatever deity or like whatever, for their own specific practice, like they're doing it as a different kind of form of devotion. And I did know that like the chanting that um that I've done when I've come to the kirtan it like was more related specifically to the actual like sound and the vibrations, like and how yeah, that like but I didn't know the details of it.
Cool. Do you have experience with like Buddhism at all, or any kind of background in that kind of?
Very, yeah, like very little. Like just well, I took like way back when I was in college, I took like a world religions class, and then I was like interested in Buddhism. So I've studied it like a little bit, but not anything super intense. Like just kind of stuff I learned from regular like curriculum, and then like a little bit beyond that because I was just curious at the time. So not like nothing I really dove into or went like practiced. But some of the same general ideas, like when you were talking about the modes, it kind of reminded me of like some of the ideas of just like the desire and attachment and things like that. But obviously, like coming into to learning about this, I wasn't trying. I was like trying to think of it to help me like conceptualize it, but wasn't also like comparing, one way or the other. Just like trying to understand.
Yeah, this is cool because we talk about kind of deep stuff and big stuff here. I mean, most of the time in our day-to-day life, we sometimes don't take the chance to ask the bigger questions or discuss the bigger stuff. So that's why it's a nice opportunity, once a week to just kind of like, yeah, see life in a new way, ask questions or think about things that we usually don't think about. We usually tend to just go with the flow and go with the masses and whatever the latest thing rolls out. But who's really taking the time to ask the deeper questions, and that then becomes the foundation and almost like a guiding light to how we're going to deal with the stuff in life. We have to have that kind of direction, how we want to use the things that are available to us. Otherwise, they can just lead us into, like we said, forgetfulness or distraction. And I think some people, you could easily like go your whole life without really thinking about this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely like I've always been like somewhat spiritual, like in the sense that I'm like interested in it, and I do like learning about like higher, higher consciousness and kind of like separating, like your own thoughts, like
Yeah.
from your ego, and like your who you are is like your soul versus, the thoughts that you have, and
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff, and like sort of like always been interested in general of like sort of the life force like kind of connection between everything and like energy and living things. So yeah, I mean, I always like learning about different like beliefs and practices, and kind of like, you know, like whatever kind of resonates with me in terms of, like you said, applying it into my daily life so that I'm not like, I think like for the average person, even somebody that is interested in spirituality, and it's still easy to go your day-to-day life and get caught up in like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say the present, because the present's not a bad thing, but I mean like yeah, just kind of going with the flow of like whatever problems in front of you, whatever work email you have to answer, and whatever, those kind of things. Um, so yeah, that's like why I was interested um, in like joining them, especially like from going to the Wednesdays. Was just like more interested in learning um, about it, because when I like saw the books, like I didn't really know much about, yeah, and I still don't really know much about like the general like uh like Krishna consciousness like beliefs, not just in terms of like their traditions and the practices, but like I always like to learn about those to understand like what their origins are, like what they're rooted in, like how you kind of just explained with like the mantras. Like it's not just about singing as a way to like, it's like also because of the sounds and the vibrations, like being,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's good to know why we do what we do and why other people do what they do. And it's a big field right now, like mindfulness, and it's really getting all pervasive, even in businesses and stuff. They teach how to monitor your thoughts and kind of disassociate with them. So it's really entering more into mainstream society, these ideas of meditation and higher consciousness. So that is very exciting, I would say. And to me, this just adds the next level, because
Yeah.
a lot of psychological disease, it's like unwanted thoughts, or our thoughts
Mhm.
are not operating properly. So that's one level. Yeah, we realize we're not the thoughts. But then the next step is then, well, what are we? And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the psychology can't quite get into that field. That's when we have to turn more to the spiritual
Exactly.
path. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. I mean, I think like just like I have ADHD and I have anxiety, so I feel like that's, that's probably generally how I first got introduced, was just from kind of like the more mainstream mindfulness. But then like you said, that same kind of like those questions of like, okay, well then, like what are we? Where do we come from? What's the point of it then? Like if we're not those thoughts, which, like obviously like a lot of old school, like just general Western philosophy kind of says that we are, like, I think therefore I am, you know what I mean? But like it's not, like if we're not that, then if that's not the case, then and it's like when I have meditated, like I've been able to kind of like feel that soul part of me. I feel like not like fully transcended or anything, but I feel like just I've been successful even for just like 5 seconds, like in meditation, like being able to like fully, and I can like feel it in me. Like I can even, it's like, but it just does like beg the question of like, okay, like what else is there? And it might not, for me especially, like still learning and like searching, like it's not it's not like it's not like something I like need an answer on, but I like to learn more about like those beliefs and those like traditions and the knowledge that's been passed down through the different practices, because I feel like that there's got to be like there's some truth, like, and a lot of times there's like a general similar concept like with all of them. And like, you know I don't do it in search of like an answer thinking that like I'm just gonna like find an answer. Like it's not gonna be like you said, the way that psychology can't go any deeper. I mean, spirituality has obviously a sense of like not just belief, but like whatever. It's like a unseen kind of belief, where it's like whatever like just like sits right with you, and like it's just like you're knowing of it. Okay, like that's the universe.
Intuition. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's really cool because it's really like we're discovering who we are. I mean, we have an idea of who we are, but like you said, when we get into this stuff, we start tapping into a whole deeper self reality, a self concept. And that's where we have some of our books. It's called like the journey of self discovery, to really discover the unlimited nature of who we are, not the limited aspect. The limited is kind of what's floating in our mind, but what
mhm,
about the unlimited aspects of
yeah,
us? And that is, as we read, it's like immutable, immeasurable, indestructible. So what we're doing here, we're accessing that part of our being. We're going beyond just the mind, and that's what's so exciting.
yeah, yeah. It's like going behind. It's like going beyond. Well, like you said, it's like going beyond like the gross body, like your physical body, and then going beyond even the subtle bodies, like your mind and all the different parts of your mind, and then it's like going even beyond that. So
Yeah. Well, we usually go till about 8:45,
okay,
and looks like we just finished this chapter. So next time we're going to look at elevation at death, another pretty provocative title there. And I want to thank you so much for joining. You're the sole participant tonight, and I thank you for making this happen. And we see every week varies. Last time we had several people, but it's always nice. It's always a surprise. Thank you so much
yeah,
for joining, Megan.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Hope to see you maybe tomorrow for
Yeah,
the
me.
time.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow if I don't. Sometimes I get stuck at work, but I that's like how I haven't been able to make it. But I always try to make it, so hopefully I'll be able to be there.
Watch out for those modes of passion
Yeah,
taking.
I know.
Okay, we'll see you next week too, I hope.
All right, bye. Thank you.
Bye.